when I first started Highfield Comprehensive, the rule was everyone had to stand up when the teacher walked in, and the teacher came in, and everyone stood up apart from me, of course. And he got a bit annoyed, said, "You boy, why aren't you standing up?" And everyone started giggling, and I could see the funny side of it. And he's only a young teacher, he got a bit embarrassed, especially when he sort of bent down and looked under the desk, and he went bright red. He said, "Oh," and sort of, you know, hummed in hard, and then said, "OK, sit down," and got on with the lesson. And then after that, he was great.
You give that one, sir. The one, the red, is Liverpoolian.
Kevin Donnellan, aged 19, is one of the most severely damaged victims of the drug thalidomide. He was born without either arms or legs. Kevin is now reaching a critical stage in his life. Next year, he'll leave college after taking A-levels, either to go to university or take his chance on the job market. World in Action first filmed Kevin in 1972, when he was 11 years old. This was at the height of the controversial struggle between distillers, the manufacturers of the drug thalidomide, and the parents of the handicapped children. Tonight, in the International Year of the Disabled, we talk to Kevin Donnellan and his family about his struggle to overcome his severe handicap, and we consider what the future holds for someone as physically disabled as him. Kevin comes from Liverpool and was the fifth in a family of 6 children. In the first few weeks of pregnancy, Kevin's mother, Agnes, took sleeping tablets. Kevin was born severely deformed on the same day that the tablet manufacturers, distillers, withdrew the drug after its damaging side effects were recognized. But by then, 450 children in Britain and several thousand more in Germany, Japan and Sweden had been born disabled. Kevin Donnellan was one of the worst affected. Back in 1972, Agnes Donnellan told us about Kevin's first years.
When he was a baby, we did have lots of problems because I did have other small children. I don't think he hardly cried. He never had a dummy. He was great. He has to be taken to the toilet. He can't possibly do that. We have to dress him, wash him, bath him. Everything, as a matter of fact, what an ordinary child does, we have to do for Kevin, except he can't feed himself. Okay, then. One more. One more. Don't swallow it.
Despite his disabilities, Kevin's mother insisted he went to ordinary schools and competed on the same terms as other children.
I think if Kevin had gone to a handicap school or a boarding school, I think he would have been very introverted, but he isn't. With going to an ordinary school, he's just like everybody else. He's very extrovert, actually. It's been great, marvellous. Well, he has the Liverpool sense of humour, which is great. We all have that. You've got to have it to live here. Well, that's an old saying, but everybody says that.
I don't really get depressed or nothing. We can have a laugh and a joke about my handicap, especially with the other kids when we're at school. And we used to have a lot of fun with each other. In and out, we'd say, "Oh, it's only harmless fun." Or, like, when I was a kid, the joke was I wanted to be a shorthand typist. And also, sort of in school, people say unintentionally, like if it was in the pub, they say, "Were you legless there?" And then they say, "Oh, sorry mate." But I say it's okay, I don't mind that, because it means that they're not thinking about my handicap, but just treat me as everyone else.
Kevin's stepfather, Jim Calderwood.
Yeah. When he was in Highfield, the snow was about 2 foot, 3 foot deep. And he came in, he was bedraggled, and his wheelchair was broke. And I said, "What's happened to you?" He said, "We were out playing in the snow." He said, "The kids pinched me wheelchair to go riding around on." And he said, I was rolling in the snow, it was gear. I said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "Well, when they got me back inside," he said, "they just lifted me up and stuck me on the radiator to dry me out." I mean, that's Kev all over there.
Well, I like to sort of, challenge, you know. I like to sort of prove to people that I'm not sort of totally incapable of doing everything, you know. Yeah, I don't want to sound too big-headed, but yeah, I like to show people that I can do a lot of things for myself, or, well, sort of swimming and what have you. Oh no, I've never been scared of the water, you know. I was pretty keen to, you know. But the school encouraged it as well. Yeah. but I've never been afraid of the water. Well, we did a sponsored swim for the NSPCC in school, and I did a 1.25 miles in 6 hours. But I did 100 odd lengths, which made a 1.25 miles. Well, I used to use my feet as well, but the only trouble was going round in circles. And the PE instructor found out that with using my feet as well, I couldn't steer properly, so I just use my hands now.
5 years ago, there was a further tragedy in the Donnellan family. Kevin's father, John, died of cancer after 3 years of nursing at home.
I think I would have been put away anyway mentally. I was so exhausted. Kevin would have had to be put in a home, which would have been tragic.
After her husband's death, Agnes Donnellan hired former Army nurse Jim Calderwood as Kevin's helper.
Unfortunately, with his dad dying, like, it just, I think it knocked the bottom out of the family. And when I came on, like, they needed someone permanent here, sort of thing. I used to work for Securicore, you see, armoured car driver. But it hurt my elbow and I was off sick, so I never went back. I just started working with Kevin. I've been with him ever since.
We have
got married.
And we have decided to devote our life to Kevin, because nowhere does he go in a home anyway. No, he couldn't do that. He wouldn't go. He wouldn't go.
He wouldn't have him anyway.
This is our life, is looking after Kevin.
A bit of luck when we get further up there. If I hide it behind the bushes and we walk away, but people come running saying, "Hey, you've left something."
Today, even at 19, Kevin's physical needs are just as demanding as when he was a child.
The job Jim does at college is pretty monotonous, you know, sort of pushing me to my lessons, and he's got to wait in the college while I'm at my lessons all day, you know, in case I come out early or whatever. And then at dinner time, he's got to get me meals, and he's got to be at the college all day.
You cut his dinners up, of course. Washing, dressing, everything. Even when he has to be lifted on a chair, you have to lift him on a chair. He gets off the chair, but he can't get on the chair, you see. Actually, everything you have to do for Kevin. Comb his hair, dress, everything.
Jim? Right, would you lift me up on my time for it, please? Got all lessons, all right? So.
I mean, it's all bits and pieces. It's not hard work, sort of thing, but it's constant. You're doing a bit there and doing a bit there.
This? Yeah, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I now have a damaged spine. I have injections about every 3 months for that, for the pain. I can't lift Kevin whatsoever. So without Jim, I don't know what we'd do. No.
Did you damage your spine as a result of lifting Kevin?
Yes, over the years, constant lifting, yes. Mm.
How long do you think you can go on being Kevin's arms and legs?
As long as God gives me the strength. That's all I can say. I mean, I'm a totally different person. I used to have aches and pains myself, but I don't have them now.
With Kevin in a wheelchair, holidays away are a special problem, so the family tend to be restricted to day trips.
When you go out to a place like this, how do people treat you?
Look at Kevin rather than the ducks.
Well, that's kids, but I don't really mind. I mean, I'm used to that. I mean, I take it for granted. I mean, they're only kids. They're bound to be inquisitive. So I just sort of ignore them all. If this kid's staring at me, I seem to smile at him, right? And he seems to get thinking, oh, he's only human, you know, and he seems to look away, embarrassed if I smile at them. And that's the best way to treat them, really.
You've got heart into it, I haven't.
I've just used to it all my life, you know. Can't go around miserable and all this, or scared to go out, you know. Because I'm not going to be stuck in.
You know, as the people pass you, you can hear little snippets of conversation. Oh, did you see that kid? He's got no legs and all this, you know. And isn't it terrible? Isn't it awful? You get all this. You know, you do feel hurt about it.
Oh, yeah,
because he's such a happy kid, you know, and he's so ordinary. If only they knew, you know.
Some adults tend to make it fuss you and treat you like a kid.
Yeah,
especially old ladies.
Put it down straight away, yeah.
Old ladies.
Or they say to me, Mum, how old is he, you know? And what's his name? And Mum says, ask him, he can talk, you know? And he seems to be a bit put out there. Good laugh.
For the last 2 years, Kevin has been a student at the Liverpool College of Further Education. He's taking A-levels in English, history and politics.
Right, question 4 then. Comment on the view that there's no discernible trend towards centralisation of power on the Prime Minister over the last few decades, right? Last few decades. What springs to mind when we talk about the last few decades? What changes have occurred?
Joined in the EC.
We joined the EC. Yeah, that's true. I would never have thought of that, but yes. And how's that going to affect the Prime Minister's position?
The government's like hasn't got supreme power now. I mean, there's another body above.
Yeah.
And in some legislation,
Yeah.
she's got to think about the EC.
That's true.
She can't get away all the time now.
That's true. So that's a limiting factor on the Prime Minister's power. On the other hand, Europe is basically about the Council of Ministers, isn't it, Greg? Right? How does that affect the fact that it's centralised? How does that affect the Prime Minister's position?
Well, she can't no longer go about her own personal initiatives because, like Schmidt and all them fellas are going to get on her back.
Looking at the way Kevin has blossomed since he came here, one feels quite, well, proud is perhaps the word. I think he's come on like a house on fire. He's turned from being a boy into a young man, and certainly intellectually he's come on by leaps and bounds. He's thinking about things now. Very gratifying. But I have to say that the students here, the kids have been absolutely wonderful and have just dealt with everything, and there's been absolutely no problem at all. There's no holds barred, and they say pretty sharp things to Kevin, and he says sharp things back again.
When you first saw him, you sort of looked twice, but I mean, after a while, you just get to know him. It's just like one of the rest.
Well, there was loads of things that Kevin did, like, I want to ask about, but I felt embarrassed about it, like, you know, because once he did a sponsored swim, and, like, I didn't know how to ask him, you know, how do you swim without arms or legs, because it's just something I've never come in contact with before, you know.
I think really, you know, when we first started, I think, you know, everyone thought, or at least I did, that, you know, he might be a bit simple and that, you know, because of the way he is. But he's not too brainy, like.
So when I first come in, I thought, you know, he'd be dead quiet, like, you know, when you say something and next minute you hear a voice coming across, like, taking you down a peg or two, like. It's strange at first, like, you know, you thought he'd be dead reserved, but it's funny, really.
My players are nervous, you see, that's what it is.
I've always got on best with, you know, the sort of, the rough ones and the rowdy ones, you know. I don't bother with the others. They accept me, probably, more so. And they're not shy to talk to me. I'm not shy to talk to them. I mean, I've had games about football and go to the pub and things, yeah.
But away from college, Kevin's physical handicaps make his life much lonelier than those of his classmates.
Well, I dread the summer holidays, you know, the weeks off. I can't wait to get back to college. I'm an active type of person, you know, you don't get bored very easily at home, you know. It gets a bit tense, the strains, like getting on my nerves and I get on her nerves, you know, because we're so bored.
And he goes and hides himself in his study for hours, just playing his records. Well, it's not good enough for him.
It isn't stretching him at all. He wasn't stretching now a bit.
Well, occasionally if my mate calls down, but a lot of them are working or it's too far to travel to ours, you know, from where they live. A lot of them live out in Formby way and all this. You know.
See, another kid's his age, he'd be out at discos every night, and he'd possibly be in a bloody pub every night.
I don't mind studying. I study quite a lot. It doesn't bother me. But some days in the holidays, you know, you think, God, I wish I was in the pub with me mates, or wish I was out in the town, you know. But most of the time, I don't really mind. You know, I'm not miserable, or I don't sort of go in a shell, you know.
Do you ever feel envious of other people's freedom to just go out when they feel like it?
Well, I suppose I've got used to it now and it doesn't really bother me. I suppose at one time it did, you know, when I saw me mates sort of playing football and that, but no, it doesn't really now. Because I suppose what you're not used to, you don't miss.
I take him into the college and they see five-side football and things like that. And when the kids are running up, you see Kev moving sort of thing. But he doesn't say anything. Right? He doesn't say, oh, I wish I could do it, or bloody hell, I can't do it, like. He just smiles and gets on with life.
For Kevin, next year is a critical one. He and his friends will be leaving college to look for work. For the young people of Liverpool, job prospects are grim. Youth unemployment rates are at a record level. On the last day of term, Kevin and his classmates went to the pub. They were pessimistic about finding any work in their own city.
What are you looking at all the firms that are closing down around Liverpool now? Everyone's moving out of Liverpool. Like St Lyles and British Leyland, everyone there are all moving out.
So, do you think you may have to move out of Liverpool to get a job?
Yeah.
Kevin, how would you feel about leaving Liverpool, either to go to college or to go for a job?
I wouldn't be particularly bothered, really. Well, I suppose I'd miss it, you know, for a few days or whatever, but I'd get over it. I think it's the people I'd miss more than the actual place, because, you know, Scousers are quite unique and very friendly.
I don't think you've got to move out. I think it should be the reverse. You know, because you've got a city with all these people, like, you know. I think you do something with them. Yeah, you should bring the jobs to you instead of you having to go south or, you know.
The Dock Road stretch is 7 miles. It's all old-fashioned. It's no good for what he wants.
It's just like a ghost town now. It's just deserted completely.
It's too small.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it.
Because no one's interested, are they? No one cares.
Well, it's not that they don't care, they know that there's nothing that can be done. They can't, as individuals, even as a joint effort, you can't do nothing. All the Liverpool MPs went down to London with all the archbishops, and what happened? Nothing.
There's no point in carrying on, that's the only thing that keeps you going these days.
If you get on A-levels, it'd be a big step, like, to get a job. Yeah. 'Cause that's the only thing that'll get you jobs now is qualifications, especially around here.
It's a very difficult time for any young lad to get a job at the moment, isn't it? Do you think it's that much more difficult for Kevin?
Oh, yes, much more difficult for Kev. Because, see, an employer or whoever takes someone on, they want them to be mobile, sort of thing. You just can't, they don't want someone just to sit at the desk all the time. And call someone over if they want something. Like a person might want something from the files, they get up from the desk and they go up to the file cabinet and get the stuff out themselves, and they come back and they work on that, but Kev couldn't do that.
Well, this is sort of worrying problem. I'm not really sure, I'm thinking of all sorts of ideas. Some people, such as Mr. O'Connor, they think I'll be going to university, I'll be better off. I'm not really sure. Maybe if I get me A-levels, I'll feel more confident of getting my head down to study. And there's also the problem of finding a university that will take me, and a helper as well. But other than that, I suppose it's sort of looking for some sort of job or person who will employ me such as in an office type of work, or work from home.
Do you think that Kevin will eventually earn his own living?
I'd like him to. I can't say it now. No, because you see, whoever employs Kevin, if there's such a person around, would also have to employ a helper for Kevin. Well, they don't go into business for sentimental reasons, so they're not going to employ 2 people instead of 1. I can't say it. I really can't. I know it sounds awful pessimistic, but you have to face reality, I suppose.
Just as great a concern is Kevin's financial future. Many people believe that the thalidomide victims received huge sums of money as compensation. Kevin, in fact, was awarded £22,000 in 1967. As he was then a child, the courts were entrusted with looking after the money for him. But Kevin's compensation was to be badly invested.
What happened to that lump sum that was made?
The 40% Kevin was awarded, which was £22,000. Well, that was put in the court for Kevin till he was 18. And then when he was 18, Kevin had the choice either to leave the money in the courts or he could handle it himself. Well, we decided that it would be best if we took it out the court and put it in an investment for Kevin through the bank. And we put it back in trust, actually, till Kevin is 25, because he's still too young to handle money. And when we had all the officials down from the bank and we had all the correspondence from the courts, we found that that £22,000 had gone down to £21,000 after 8 years being in the court, which was ludicrous.
What did you expect it to have happened? That lump sum?
Doubled. We thought it would have doubled at least. It hadn't. It hadn't. You know, when I read about distillers' profits, which last year was £200 million, and I think when I think of the pittance, what Kevin got, then I feel very bitter. And I wish I could have been wealthy enough to afford them all the way to the courts. I really would. That was my one ambition, and I couldn't do it.
Nearly 20 years after his birth, Kevin's mother is still angry at the injustice she feels he was dealt. After a public outcry, distillers agreed to set up a trust for the thalidomide victims in 1973 to assure their financial future. But now inflation threatens to erode the real value of the settlement.
When we're too old to look after Kevin, he's going to be on his own. He's going to need helpers. He's going to need to be looked after. And not just for a few hours a day, but day and night. And he's got to pay people to do that for him. And that's when he needs his money. This is why we're frightened to ask the trust for anything, because as we ask the trust for something for Kevin, and I mean materially, basically, we always feel guilty because we think, you know, well, he needs that for when he's older, so we hold back and we don't ask them for all that much. Because he only has a little bit in it. And as you get money off them, well, then his little bit goes down. So you tend to hold back, and so you don't ask. Not too much.
What about your financial position? Do you ever worry that you won't be able to earn your keep or things like that?
Well, it's only now that I've had to start to sort of think about it, because let's face it, my parents sort of won't be around forever to look after me. And money's never gone to my head, because I suppose I've never really had that much when you think about it. I mean, the compensation I was awarded, it's not even the equivalent of, say, 2 years' pay. So if I suppose I'll always have to employ someone to look after me. And I just don't see how I can afford to. Well, for a long time.
When Kevin was a baby, I worried what would happen when he became school age. I never ever wanted Kevin to go to a school for the handicapped. They may be good, but I didn't want Kevin to do that. I wanted Kevin to be just an ordinary kid.
Drifting along, watching the world as it's singing its song. High above, someone is calling to me. Life is for living and living is free. You to me are like the sun in the sky. See how you fly, you have wings of your own. You and me, our love will last without end.
When he was 5, we got him in an ordinary school, which to us was great. It was one step forward. Then we begin to worry what happens when he's 11 and he has to leave that school. But then when he was 11, a good friend of ours from social services really pulled out all the stops to get Kevin in the bigger school, and they accepted him and he integrated. It was marvellous. So that was another worry over. But while he was there, then you worry about when he leaves that school, which he did, and he's in college, and that's great. But now we're worrying what will happen when Kevin leaves college next year. So it is a constant worry all the time. But that's when Kevin will feel it himself. That's when Kevin will grow up, more or less. Then it will be Kevin. Then it's up to him to see what he makes of his life. But I think the stable background he's had with an ordinary family life, I think that will help. I hope so. If we've done nothing else, we've gave him that. You know, we gave him that. Because that's when he needed it. That's when he need, you know, a sense of humour. That's when he needed it.